you've decided to learn to code, and that's great. But which language are you going to learn first? There's literally hundreds of languages out there. How are you going to pick just one? The good news is, not only do I have a couple decades of programming experience, I've also taught thousands of people just like you to go from zero to professional coder. So I'm going to take that list and I'm going to cut it down to just 5 languages. And then I'm going to rank them against various factors so that you can help decide what language is best to start with in 2023. Welcome, aspiring coders. I'm Eric Wise from SkillFoundry, where we transform beginners into professionals by teaching them how to code the right way. So how did I get that list of languages down to just 5? Well, there are some critical factors that every beginner should filter their choice of first language through. And that is employability, ease of learning, transferability, versatility, and stability. When I factored all those things in, we ended up with 5 languages: C++, C#, Java, JavaScript, and Python. Now this is where it gets fun. Each of these languages is a worthy contender as your first language, but I've taken my experience to rank them against each other. So I'm going to give them a score of 1 to 3 in each category. And a score of 1 doesn't mean that the language is bad, it just means it has some disadvantages compared to the others. Similarly, a score of 3 means that it has some advantages, and 2 means it's pretty average in the category. So first up, we have employability. And employability is more than just how many jobs are available. I've also factored in how much competition is there for these jobs. And once you land one of these jobs, how safe is it? How long is it going to sustain you in your career? The problem with websites that often rank languages is they fail to consider some really important factors, like if a language requires other skills to be employable. And a good example of this is SQL. It's a database language. Now, SQL always finishes near the top of the list, but if you only know SQL, you're really not employable because that SQL skill is used with other programming languages to bring data into your application. So with that, I'm going to rank these languages for employability based on my experience working with hundreds of large employers. So Java and C# have led the pack for a long time, and they'll continue to be strong in 2023. Simply put, there are tons of jobs in enterprise companies that have spent decades building their back-end infrastructure in these 2 languages. They aren't going anywhere. We're going to score them a 3. JavaScript and C++ are solid choices and score a 2. Now, I almost put JavaScript as a 1 because of the high level of competition due to coding boot camps pushing out a glut of students into the market with JavaScript skills. Now, considering Python, it has incredible growth because of data careers, not as much for developer careers. This distinction is important because for developers, it just doesn't have the same volume of jobs available as the others. Now again, scoring a 1 doesn't mean you shouldn't learn Python. It's still better than the hundreds of other languages choices out there. But if you're looking at data analysts, engineer, or science careers, Python would top the list in this category, but we're looking at pure developer positions. So next up, we have ease of learning. And in this category, JavaScript and Python are well known to be very easy languages to pick up. And I agree, so they get a 3. Now, Java and C# are a little bit more difficult because they're more structured. But they are still approachable. You should not be afraid of these languages. I give them a 2. Now, C++, that's a different matter. Not only is it a more difficult language to learn, but because of the way it works, you have to learn some computer science concepts to get good at it. And for that reason, I give it a 1. Ease of learning can also be a double-edged sword. If we go back to the employability comment, one of the reasons there are so many JavaScript developers competing for those entry-level jobs is because of its ease of learning. Now for transferability, I'm ranking how similar a language's syntax and structure is to other programming languages. Let me give you a real-world example. In human languages, if you learn a Latin-based language like Spanish, French, or English, once you've learned one, learning the others is much easier than learning a completely different language like Japanese. This holds true in programming. A language with high transferability makes it easier to learn other languages in the same family. The C-based family of languages is pretty dominant in the professional development space, which is why C# and Java top the list with a score of 3. These two languages teach very good code organization and structure because of their wide use in the enterprise. Now C++ is like a father figure to C# and Java, but I scored it a 2 because it lacks some of the modern features for rapid application development. Now JavaScript and Python, while beginner-friendly, they have some quirks, and they're not as easily transferred to other languages because of that, so I gave them a 1. And I know from experience training beginners that going from JavaScript to Java, C# or C++ is much more difficult than going in the other direction. Now, versatility is how I rank languages based on how often they're used for different tasks. And there's 2 languages that finish at the top of this list and score a 3. C++ is used widely across robotics, embedded systems like automobiles and ATMs, game development, and others. And C# is used not only in enterprise applications, but also web and mobile development and game development with Unity. Now, JavaScript and Python are also used across several domains, and they come in at an average 2 score. Well, Java's an interesting story. As one of the first cross-platform modern languages, it was once used everywhere. But because Java did not evolve as rapidly as some of the other languages on the list today, it's still dominant in the enterprise. Hands down, #1 language. But it's being used less and less outside of that area for new development. As an example, in Android mobile development, it's being replaced by another language, Kotlin. And for this reason, I had to score it a 1. So lastly, we need to talk about stability. And stability is a ranking of how quickly the languages in their frameworks change. Because a language that changes quickly means that you have to relearn and reapply your skills. Over the last decade or so, there have been rapid advances in user interfaces. And by that I mean we've gone from browsers on computer monitors to smartphones to tablets, and now there's user interfaces on your TVs, on your fridges, appliances, and just frankly, anything front end has been changing rapidly for a long time now. And that's why JavaScript gets a 1, because it has a habit of throwing out web frameworks and abandoning skills and making you learn other ones. On the other side, Python, we're in the middle of a data revolution. We're seeing data science, data engineering, AI, big data, all these things that Python is used for means a bunch of new frameworks, and it means a bunch of new techniques, and it means a lot of learning to keep up. For that reason, I gave it a 2. It is slower to change than JavaScript is, but it is still changing pretty rapidly. Meanwhile, C++, C#, and Java, because of their wide use in the enterprise, they change a lot less frequently. Because there's nothing enterprise businesses hate more than having to redo work that they already did because the language isn't stable. So those languages have maintained their grip on enterprise customers by prioritizing backwards compatibility and slower, more methodical changes. Now, these rankings are just a small snapshot of things you need to consider when picking your first language. And this is a really important choice, So if you want to go into more detail, why not take the free course, Getting Started with Software Development, over at SkillFoundry? Link in the description below. This course answers many of the common questions that beginners have, like what kind of computer to pick, what kind of jobs are out there, and it even goes deeper into the topic of picking your first language. So regardless of whether you're just watching our videos or you're taking our courses at SkillFoundry, our goal is to make sure that you can make informed choices. Happy coding!